All right, we have an update to the Bikdip on a bus stop video.
At a bus stop. God, get it right.
God, gotta restart. No, jeez. Okay, no. So this was
I'm fucking ecstatic.
yeah. So this was about almost exactly a month ago. I checked. It was July 30th. I uploaded a video explaining an issue in Zelda Classic about combo cycling and its various issues. And I'll explain more about that in a minute, but let's just currently view how it works. We figured some shit out. So we got feet coming down. Look, there were feet coming down, and then we go over here, and now they're still coming down again, and they're not fucking up. And now I'm gonna go over here, and
It doesn't matter what you do. It was like scary when we first got this to work, and we just couldn't make it. It's like
I was like, yeah, it's like, what are we doing wrong? It's actually working. So let me explain this, because in the other video, we had ended by basically saying that the problem was solved. We had figured it out. But then, as soon as the video was uploaded, I watched it again. I'm like, wait, hold on. No, it's still fucking up. There was a problem where, basically, like, the thing we were testing there was, like, there were basically, like, numbers kind of just counting up and changing colors, and they were supposed to always go in a certain way, and then like what would happen is it would fuck up in a way where like one color would change to the other, and then they would just be in sync, and then you'd never be able to get them not in sync anymore.
Yeah.
And a month has passed in which, like, well, basically we spent like another couple days trying to figure out what the hell the problem was.
I was talking to Moosh, who left a comment. Shout out to him, because his code insight helped a little bit with this.
Yeah, like, so we talked to Joel about it. Like, he doesn't know the program that well, but he knows about coding stuff at least. We talked to a bunch of people, and it was just like, 192 is just is trash, and it's like, if there's even a way to fix this, it's gonna be awful.
There are bugs in this. Like, this is not just weird behavior. It's actively like not what it's supposed to be working like. But we have worked out the kinks in it, and we can make consistent behavior at the very least.
So yeah, we'll explain why it's suddenly working now. But first, let me actually I
may not have much to say during this video, because I don't understand most of what you did exactly. But
no, I mean, you did. You helped a gigantic amount with it. But but yeah, so let me just show what this is supposed to be again, because
I don't think I could explain it, at least.
If you don't remember, if you're watching this, you had to have watched the first one. Otherwise, you're just not going to understand it. But the whole idea of this is, the Undertale style battle system, where it's an attack where you're like dodging feet coming down, and so that's what this currently does. I have it set up in such a way where, if you get stepped on by it, you take damage. Like, you take 1 heart, even if you're kind of like partially up the screen. If it's rising, you still take a half heart, but then if you're touching like just the leg itself, it doesn't do any damage until you get to the foot part. And so right now the attack is not really that hard to dodge, but we've set it up in such a way.
There's potential for mixing up the order of these and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can change the order. We can have like 2 feet come down at the same time, that kind of stuff. The point is, it works, and it works with a relatively asterisk small amount of actual combos here. So we've got, what is this? This is 8, and then another 8, 3, 1.
That's 20,
and then we have 14.
Yeah, so 34 combos for getting
which is not the worst.
Good for 192 for something complicated like this.
Yeah,
I was expecting there was a point where we thought we might need like basically double that, right?
I mean, if we were just doing this as purely
many times,
yeah, it was going to be a shit ton more than that. So to review, the goal of this was to minimize on combo space and tile space, because combo cycling sucks ass. And so for like each one of these, like, let's just look at a base tile. It's 4 frames long, and it has an animation speed of 2, which means it lasts on the screen for 3 frames before it changes to the next one.
One thing that really messed up our communication is that you can refer to the individual like images that are displayed as frames, and you can also refer to time in game as frames.
That
so we
sucked.
started referring to time as ticks.
Yeah,
because
but,
that's
so,
another term used in the program.
But yeah, let's say, this is how long one of these phases lasts. If we were going to do this the old-fashioned way of, like, everything, like, usually when you're doing combo cycling, people will say, like, you have to have the same number of animation frames and speed for everything or else it's going to fuck up, which is usually true. And so, like, if we were going to do that, then, like, this bottom one would have taken, like, dozens of frames to get to that point. Like, this would have taken a million combos. Right. Because it would just be a bunch of empty shit cycling into each other. And so
turns out you only need the animation speed to be the same. You can change up animation frames with a couple caveats.
So in the last video, we had determined, and were incorrect, that, like, if you want to have them sync up correctly, all that matters is, like, the product of the frames times the speed. Turns out, don't ever do that. No.
Again, the speed is +1.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, the issue is if the speed is off, it is going to mess up. And the reason for this is because we've determined now, thanks to actually seeing information in the game's coding,
from motion.
When you start a game, every single tile in the sheet, like, or rather every combo in the entire game, no matter where it gets used, is somewhere stored in memory and will be counting up as the game advances to basically
only
go
only
through
the ones with animation frames.
Well, yeah,
because
but
there's nothing to count for the other ones.
Yeah, so it'll be counting up, and it's like, for this one it has a speed of 0, animation frame 16. So like somewhere it's going to be counting this up, and when it hits 16, loops back, redoes the thing, and it's just constantly doing this. Things that are part of a combo cycle, where it's one combo turning into another one instead of just animating, behave differently because, as we've established in the last video, it will always start on.
Us and our work is never done.
It'll always start on the combo that you draw onto the screen directly. So it's like, this one, like this thing I have going on here, it's like this turns into this, etc. So it's like, if normally, let's say it would have been like halfway through, it doesn't care. It's going to go to the first one. But on top of that, there's another stupid freaking thing it does where, so this one has 4 animation frames, and they each last for 3 ticks, 60ths of a second. If you enter the screen and the timer running in the background of the program is like, we're on the 3rd frame, it doesn't matter which tick it's on. It's going to go to the beginning of that 3rd frame, count the number of ticks it needs to, and then advance, which is different from how normal animations work, and it throws off a lot of timing.
Like, when it does that, it doesn't affect the, like, background count of which frame it should be on. That is kept kind of separate, right?
I think so. It's really weird.
If you left and come back, it doesn't depend on what happened on the screen. That basically doesn't matter anymore. It just checks again from, like...
Yeah. Basically, it behaves very strangely. And so the bus stop mechanism that we've set up, the way...
Did we have the stupid item thing last time we showed this off?
Yeah, because of the... every time you would warp off screen.
That's
so
right,
that still functions the same way it did. The bus stop now is... this is extremely simple, and I'm amazed we didn't just get this to work before. But it's a single combo that turns into a conveyor belt after a certain amount of time has passed, and that amount of time, the way we have it set up right now, is 48 animation frames with the same speed as everything else, because the speed has to be consistent. The reason it's 48...
48 is the lowest common multiple of every other animation frame used.
Yes, so the majority of these that we have are 4 frames, but there's a few that are longer. So like this...
There's an 8, a 12, and a 16.
The way that these are organized on the screen right now is awful, and it's because I didn't plan ahead very well, but like, so this first chunk here is all just... Anyway. This is, that represents this top left corner. Of, like, there's nothing, there's a foot coming down, there's a leg visible, eventually there's a foot coming back up, and then when this is finished, it's going to cycle into 411, which is this, which is pure blackness that just loops on itself infinitely. So that's just the top. That's just the top part of the foot. For the next part, it has to be on a slight delay because it's going to take a minute for the foot to get down there. So we have this first tile. Now we suddenly have an animation frame of 8 instead of 4 because it has to wait twice as long. And then this one is 12 and this one is 16. So basically each one is just waiting an extra 4 because it has to wait for the thing to get down, which makes sense.
And then it also can't just turn into the same thing as everything else because
it has to kind of account for like a couple extra things here and there.
For example, the bottom one only ever becomes the foot and then it comes back up, whereas the other one, like the top one, it becomes the foot and then it's
the leg, and it stays there for a really long time. So that's why, like, basically this first one has a bunch of combos. The second one only needed like 3. This one only needed 2. This one only needed 2. These, don't worry about. This was me planning ahead poorly. And so we have 4, 8, 12, and 16, and that's why we have 48 here, is because no matter what, this bus stop mechanism is designed to only let you reach this screen after the correct amount of frames have passed, because if you enter at any other time, then things are going to be thrown out of whack due to you, like, coming in at the middle of an animation, basically. And so 48 ensures that everything has completed a cycle and is not in the middle of one. The number 12 was throwing it off because everything else was kind of like... It's like, you know, you can fit 4
You can fit 4 and 8 into 16, but you can't fit 12 into 16.
Yeah.
So then we
had to do that.
Do like weird compounding of frames and like trying to make things efficient by having them turn into other frames where possible. Not turn into other combos where possible.
And so
I mean, that was mostly what I did, was I was trying to calculate like the most efficient way of doing this in my head, and so I think I managed to get something pretty good with that.
So we have this timer here for 48 animation frames, each lasting 3/60ths of a second ticks frames. I hate that there's so many uses of the word frames here, but so it's like we have that thing, and that means that at most you'll be waiting on this screen for 144 frames, which is just slightly over 2 seconds.
Yep, but the average is going to be half of that because
it's like, you could come in later.
It could be any number there, so...
Basically, this is going to boot you out anytime that the internal timer is a multiple of 144, so like right there, I entered it right before the timer was over. Immediately went back, and everything's still working fine. So... That's basically going to be like a loading screen.
Time is 1.2 seconds.
It's going to be like a loading screen in the middle of the battle, and sometimes it'll be like 2 seconds, sometimes it'll be instantaneous, sometimes it'll be in between. That's pretty much it, but we'll explain the last aspect here, which was all of these tiles showing on screen currently are just for 1 foot coming down. To have the other ones coming, they have to be on a bit of a delay, and this delay also has to groove with the bus stop timer.
Yeah, sorry, this is where the compounding came in.
And
there were lots of times in this where I'm like, we could save some combos, but it will cause the bus stop timer to double because the LCM would be changing. And so we tried to avoid that where possible.
And so basically...
managing to reduce it by making, like... You were worried that the attack was too slow and easy to dodge, so you made it faster, and that actually made the bus stop faster as well, which is a nice...
nice little side effect.
Bonus,
So the way this works right down here is if you just look at this leftmost column of tiles, this one is a timer. It waits 24 times 3, because there's an invisible +1 on this. You just have to accept that. It waits that number of frames, and then it transitions into this first combo up here, which is the one in the top left. So it's basically, after that amount of time passes, foot comes down, and it uses the exact same things as before. This is just a timer mechanism. Same thing for the ones below it. It's just like, this is the bottom of the foot, it has the timer. And then these ones to the side are essentially the same thing. It's just, this one waits a certain amount of time, turns into this, waits a certain amount of time, waits for this, blah, 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 turns into the foot. The problem came with the bottom of this being just kind of problematic because, so like, all these other ones, it's 24, and then we have 24, and then this one It also just this one had to be kind of messed with a bit because it was like, what was the problem with it? It was turning into, oh yeah, it was. So the problem with this one is it's waiting 24 frames or whatever the hell this number is, 24 times 3. It was waiting that many frames, and then it was transitioning into what would normally have just been.
This is the thing I was trying to say about earlier, where 16 is not a factor of 24.
Yeah, it was. Where is the 16? It's there. It is. It was turning into this one, and because 16 does not fit into 24 an even number of times, it was like coming in on like an unfinished animation, and it was messing everything up.
Yeah.
So we had to make like these other filler tiles for it to turn into, and then have those just kind of skip a frame.
The 16 entirely.
So it goes 24
instead of going 24 into 16, it's
into
24,
12 into 4 into 4
into the rest of the 4s.
So it's the same length, but it doesn't go into any like disagreeable numbers. And I don't know what the fuck you did with these two.
That one. Well, we just, by adding extra delay, we reached numbers that suddenly became nicer factors of things, basically.
Like,
nicer multiples.
This whole thing basically just turned into like Algebra 2, which I was really bad at. And so
I'm pretty good at maths. I don't think this was anything super complicated.
So what did this one do? So this one's 48, and then it goes into...
And it goes into the 16.
This one, and then that goes into this,
So basically, the one that was fucking up, we needed a total delay before the foot showed up of 40. So that should have been a 24 into 16, but we couldn't do that, so we did 24 into 12 into 4 into the foot. This one needed to be a delay of, it's 40, but an extra 24, so 64. But 48 into 16 is fine, so there's no problem there. Like, we could just make this 48 and have it go into the 16, and that worked. And then the last one needed to be, 88? So then I was like, okay, 88 minus 24 is 64. Wait, was that what I did? I can't remember now. Oh, no, I did 88 minus 48 is 40. So I'm like, okay, 40 was the original one we had, so we can just do 48 into the first one. I was basically just looking for instances where we could try to sort this out, and
so yeah, that was us explaining a bunch of weird bullshit that
took us
all of this was just to make things less like it was to save space in game, to have one attack, but the principle can be reused for a bunch of other stuff. Now
that we have this method, we can apply it to many other similar attacks in the game that use any kind of like moving thing represented with combo cycling. We can use these same principles for that, and there's quite a few instances where that is applicable.
Yeah,
that I'm looking forward
to. The bus stop mechanism can also be used for stuff where we want to have like an animation that plays over the whole screen.
Right.
That we want to have sync up with
the more
stuff.
time we spend on fiddly little bullshit in this, like, the more things we'll learn about how the engine works, and the more techniques we'll pick up that we can use in a wide variety of situations. And hopefully this will mean that later development will be easier and thus faster.
One can only hope. But yeah, it was... I started working on this today, basically expecting that we were not going to solve it, and we're going to have to find some stupid compromise. Like, I was originally thinking, like, we're going to have to just make an animation where one foot comes down and then have, like, a full screen warp that takes you to the other one, and it's going to be really lame. But no, we actually found a solution to this, and I am amazed.
I was more optimistic. I didn't necessarily think, like, yeah, we're totally going to do it today or another day. I was like, let's see what happens. I feel like we're getting there. But yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting it today, specifically. Like, that was really good. It did take us, like, 4 hours, but yeah. Actually, when did we get done with the other stuff?
Can I die to the feet? I want to die to the feet.
Let's see.
It's important.
Okay, it was like 4 hours. What in the hell?
There we go. Somehow ended on 555. Okay, but yeah, that is all. It was a long explanation for very little, but I am excited.
Me too.